Hello. Thank you for having me here. It's a great honor to make the closing keynote and actually a great responsibility. So I hope that I will meet your expectations and you will not be bored and you will have some thoughts to think about after. So I'm working with startups for the last 10 years as a business developer. My background actually is in a digital transformation. And about 2 years ago, with another two co-founders, we founded Startup4City. It's a matchmaking platform and innovation consulting studio for territories and startups with the social impact to drive actually product pilots. And my passion is in the social innovation merged with the technology, because for me, personally, it's very interesting to find new ways of thinking about human experience in the future and business models which can drive it, actually. That's why today I selected a very interesting topic for you, and I'd like to cover it. So, do fintech startups and actually mobile phones have a chance or potential to lead the world to the eradication of poverty? And de facto, mobile phones became banks for unbanked globally. It's already not even a trend, but new normal. However, does it mean that mobile phones and fintech startups have direct or indirect impact on the poverty globally? I'd like to share with you some findings because I was very curious about this question. So we started a preliminary research and we looked at 100 startups in emerging countries which have definitely social impact, and we studied their use cases across fintech instruments. So I'd like to share some outcomes from it and some interesting stories for you to have a flavor, at least what's going on. The first thing to think about, that extreme poverty is increasingly concentrated in a complex and difficult context. What does it mean? Imagine that in 1990s, there were about 20% which were actually living in a fragile state. And today, this figure is increasing. And what does it mean, actually? This is a very interesting point, that about 97% of people right now, poor people, are living in a fragile state and actually environmental vulnerability. What does it mean? That those people who live on below than $1.25 per day, they even don't have a chance to get out from this poverty. And I think it's interesting and crucial to find ways how to help these people. Why? I will explain a bit later. What about startups? Startups is my favorite topic since I'm working with them for a long time. Startups is always a pioneer. It's always a personal story driven by founders' motivation to find a solution for existing problem. That's usually used to be like this. And another thing is that startups are usually finding impact pathways which are then followed by corporates or investors. And they show actually where is a real need, and they really can show us where is adoption, quick adoption happening. And that's their role. Unfortunately, some of them are dying on this way, but what they are doing really good for the world while showing us where we can actually go and what we can explore else. In 2015, United Nations General Assembly adopted the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, and alongside of it, they developed sustainable goals. So they call like Sustainable Development Goals globally. And what is interesting about this, that this is a global agenda. This is a common language on which companies, enterprises, non-public sector is speaking now. And that's very important. Colleagues from World Bank did even more. They actually mapped the evidence based on financial inclusion, and they showed that there is a certain connection between at least 8 sustainable goals and financial inclusion globally. It means that different kind of use cases actually can reflect on these global goals and bring some solutions on board. What does it mean? Financial inclusion means that formal financial services like borrowings, savings, digital payments are available widely and people can use it. And while being involved in a financial agenda globally or a financial system globally, these people simply have choice. They have opportunity to get education. They have opportunity not to get back to the poverty and to, for example, to create sustainable business by themselves. Following this kind of findings related to sustainable goals, we've studied several use cases. So we took about 100 startups and we looked through their use cases and stories through the open data. And what we found out is very interesting. So the first thing is that this is the some approach which was presented by United Nations in terms of measuring impact on poverty evaluation. So they consider that a single use case could have certain impact. For example, digital payments. I would make some introduction to this point, like when digitalizing payments, there is a certain opportunity for the country to get out from existing problems. For example, based on studies, I know that in Niger, researchers found out that making social safety net payments via mobile phones versus having people go and collect payments somewhere in branches reduced overall travel and wait time by 75%. What doesn't mean that people are not spending money more on going to the branch and receive the financial service, but rather having on board locally. In India, digitalizing government transfers reduced bribe demands on receiving the payment by 47%. And they cut it in this way, the middlemen who usually have a chance to skim off these funds. And that was also a very interesting impact on the society development. So, but if we don't take just digital payments, but something else like credit scoring, or digital identity, which is very much connected to financial services, what will happen? Then another approach would be is to see how multiply use cases across multiply financial devices impacting or influencing on their society or influencing on the poverty. And this is very interesting thing, because when you look at these impact pathways, you can really understand the way how people's life is changing. The thing is that unfortunately, to measure the financial inclusion impact, it's really hard, since changes are happening slowly and patient observers will not see like immediate result there. But the thing is that impact is so huge, so interesting, that actually it's showing us not only new business opportunities, but rather how to make good as well. So we pre-selected 10 use cases, and which is possible to map like right now, right here, based on the data available online and also based on interviews with the startups, like ensuring the charity funds reach recipients or reducing transaction costs and leakage and so on. So, and then we defined type of startups which actually work with these use cases, and if there is this certain traction they have during last years. The thing is that while having attraction, like by this I mean like they create either jobs, they create either new kind of habits for people, or actually they follow the way that the reality or ecosystem is changing. We found out that, okay, while multiplying these cases, we see definitely a certain impact on the poverty itself. So we do not consider it more as a complex context, in a complex context, but we see that small companies, day by day, do some small steps that reality is changing. And then globally, we can really achieve this goal if we have it. We hope, honestly, that such kind of approach will become common, and actually more players starting on a wide range will work with these pathways. Another thing is that it's a definitely customer-centric approach, because through this we can actually define together what kind of impact this or another solution have. And we slightly moving from measuring access, then measuring usage of the service, then to measuring impact of the service on the society and people and their daily life. And what's next? I would like to share some, maybe few stories for you to understand where it's now. This case study was done by guys from MIT and Georgetown University, which was really expensive, but really good, because they did 3 rounds of interviews with the people, and they really showed that, for example, M-Pesa, which is the pioneer of digital payments in Africa, really created about 1,800 opportunities for women to move from agriculture sector, where they just didn't have choice what to do more, to micro business, so that these ladies could have a choice what to do in this life, how to do it, and that they could build something sustainable, like any model. Another interesting point that they saw slightly change in how much money people live per day, and it's important to understand that this kind of things is possible to change organically. Another use case which I would like to share with you is Pezesha. Comparing to M-Pesa, which was founded in 2007, Pezesha was founded in 2016, and just in 2 years they created about 10,000 jobs. Then again, what happened, like 10,000 women could have a choice to what to do in life. Instead of just working hardly in the field, they created own micro business like kiosks and so on, so that this kind of opportunity through micro lending allowed them to create sustainable model. And what is this if not an impact, you know? And then the last case, which is one of my favorites actually, it's about digital identity. This is ongoing test right now. The name of the startup is Ampli. And they are trying to create opportunity to actually to influence on the transparency in the subsidy process, which is right now really bureaucratical, really look like bunch of papers in the boxes which are delivered from place to place so that kids could have education, because it's paid in Africa. And then what these guys are doing right now, after a successful rollout in last year, they are trying to register on the platform over 14,000 centers. Each of them has about 700,000 kids. So imagine how massive could be this impact while digitalizing this subsidiary process and allowing these kids to have education and funds reaching recipients. This is few cases which I wanted to share with you today to show that there is a direct connection between what fintech startups are doing now and how they're actually changing the reality step by step, slowly. Why it's matter? Simply, I don't think that it's enough to assume that a solution or a product or innovation will be impactful. But instead, we need to investigate in the impact we create with new data, directly with the end customers. And what does it mean? We need more data to actually fight against the poverty and more accurate information in this case, and we need new business models. So let's start to change our behavior to understand what is there and why to invest in such kind of researches or initiatives, what it could bring to your business. The thing is that we have certain data right now, like, for example, payments and savings, yeah, through quite expensive researches, but we don't have understanding of financial literacy, how fast in adoption of technology are those people, and so on. But this might have definitely for the business in the future. While talking about what does it mean for you as an investor or for you as a territory representative like development agency. Simply, territorial approaches to development and financial inclusion offer the opportunity to address actually the challenges and take advantages locally based on the regional diversity, which we are actually tackling in this case. And by adopting a multi-sector and multi-stakeholder business models and trying to imagine how this will look like, we actually building the new way of thinking. We start to think the new way about our future experience, our human experience. And actually, in this case, we can align that with the global agenda, which is right now sustainable goals, and make sense for all players in this game. Talking about the data, just very brief, maybe idea, or like sharing ideas or the way how it could look like. Here is a simple scheme of how traditional data gathering is working right now in developing countries. Like when people are going buy food, they do service, they get some information from citizens, then they transfer that to regional municipality, which is providing it to national government, and then at the end, enterprise get access to it and trying to understand it the way like how it works, what's happening and so on. Like, for example, information regarding births or deaths, information regarding financial literacy and so on and so on. But what if this traditional way will change, and we will try to involve new players in this game and to build with them new type of business models and get some kind of benefits out of this. Here is a short example of new customer-centered approach when a data-driven startup is able to support such kind of data gathering and really leverage the cost of gathering this data, because it's now very expensive, most probably you know that. So what's the benefit for the startup in this case? It's a benefit to create new revenue streams. On another side, it's a benefit for the region to get accurate information, really important for the region development, economical growth, and at least, for example, education capital, which is measured by human capital, which is measured by education in the country. And most probably, you know, like as higher this capital is, then the easier technology adoption is as well. So, what do you think? Do you think about? Do you think about like what's your role in this process? Yeah, I think it's important to understand that the role you can play in it. Doing a short summary and maybe bringing you some questions to think about, or like a homework or inspiration from here. So, financial services or financial startups are the lifeblood of the economy. They might not help us to get poverty to the zero, but what they definitely could help us to understand better trends, to understand better how to change people's life. What I see right now, like based on findings which we had like through screening these 100 startups and their personal stories and connecting this with use cases, influencing on sustainable goals, we see that financial services continue to be agents of change, and not just for middle or upper class, but particularly for low class, low borrowers, and so on, and simply providing them choice. From my point of view, it's very important, because then something is changing, something is happening then. And a lot of capital is going into pilot countries, for example, like Nigeria, Kenya, or South Africa, rather not shiny countries. This is another point to think about for founders and investors and regional government, how they could build more regional agenda around it, so that such kind of use cases is possible to transfer somewhere else and logically understand what is missing in an ecosystem and what is possible to bring there more. This is the thing. The last point, or let's say a short summary. I had a very nice evening yesterday at the dinner, and we were sharing thoughts with guys around the table. And one very nice person told me, like, you know, I'm in the business like 15, 20 years already, but I still do not understand what works, what not. And I want to say that it's okay, it's fine if you do not understand it. But it's time right now to start to actually think a bit differently, to find new ways of thinking about our future experience as humankind, because exactly your habit, which not saying to you that everything is fine, I don't understand anything, will help you to do so. It will help you to find new sustainable business models or finding new sustainable projects or find new sustainable ideas. I'm here to discuss that with you. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope I give you some thoughts and I hope you like the event. Thank you very much.